Hi guys, Vinny here in the kitchen with one of my favorite seasonal fruits. So this is called a quince, and these are usually ready around Christmas time. So you want them when they're this nice or golden yellow buttery kind of color. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of my favorite recipes with them, which is called quince cheese or membrillo in Spanish. This is a traditional New England food, and we're going to get right down to it. So the quince is pretty hard and dry for a fruit, so you want to be careful when you're cutting them that you've got a nice sharp knife and you've got a really good grip. So this one is a little overripe, so you've noticed it's getting a little soft in here, but the other side is still firm and dry. And this is actually okay because we've smelled it and it doesn't smell bad. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the seeds and the center. And so I usually use a spoon for this. And they kind of just come out in a clump like this. These have a lot of pectin in them, like a lot of pectin in them. So much that if I fill this up with water, which I might do just to show you guys, it'll start to gel together. And so this is another good plant to add for making preserves or things because it will keep things from going bad. Okay, so now that we've removed our seeds, we're going to cut these guys up. And so using a nice big knife, got a couple seeds over there. Cut it in half long ways. Remove the part of the fruit that attaches to the plant, because that's a little tough. And then we're going to cut this into slices, because they need to be boiled for quite some time, and you can boil them whole if you want. It's just going to take a lot longer. Okay, so these just barely fit in this pot that we're using, but it's okay. We're going to fill this up with water, and we're also going to put in this little piece of vanilla and 3 cardamom pods, 1 for each quince and 1 for luck. And so these are what I would consider the best flavor enhancers for quince, because they really bring out the sweetness and the warmth in this fruit. Next, we're going to cover it with water, and we're going to boil it until we can stick a fork in this and it gets so soft that it falls off the fork. So the quince have boiled for several hours, and now as you can see, the fork goes right through them and they split off if you shake it a little bit. And so what we're going to do now is strain the solid from the liquid, reserving the liquid, because this liquid is full of pectin and can be used to make some really great desserts. Now we're going to take our cooked pieces of quince and the pieces of cardamom and vanilla and put them in the food processor and puree them. So the quince is nice and pureed now. We are going to mix in the sugar. For any of you curious about what this tastes like right now, it's not very good, truthfully. It doesn't have much flavor. It's a little bitter. It's kind of astringent, but believe it or not, it's going to taste like something delicious very, very soon, not just because of the sugar. Having tasted this, I'm going to start adding in sugar. And that's probably about a generous half of a cup. Once all of the sugar is incorporated, we're going to taste it again, and then Oh, we had a piece of quince in there that isn't entirely blended up, but that's okay. Nice pinch of sumac. Now, traditionally, this would be made with lemon, but I try and use sumac in replacement for lemon in as many recipes as I can because the sumac I can forage from the wild. Lemons do not grow wild here in Connecticut, believe it or not. Something else I'm going to add, which I don't normally do, is a little bit of vanilla extract. So normally I would add just more of a vanilla bean, but I'm kind of out of vanilla beans right now, and so we're going to use vanilla extract instead, which will be almost as good. That tastes a lot better, and it's going to taste even better after it's been baked. But before we can do that, we need to prepare our baking vessel, and so I usually use a glass Pyrex that I grease with coconut oil, and so that way the quince cheese doesn't stick. And so just smear it all over there. So now we're going to put all of this in here. We're going to give this a couple of drops on the counter to level it off. And then it's going to get baked for probably about 12 hours, if I'm being honest with myself. Maybe a little less, maybe a little longer. I'm going to be putting it in my toaster oven and just kind of leaving it on for most of the day. And we'll check it later this evening and we'll see where we're at. So our quince cheese is finally done, and you can see that we have reduced the volume of this by almost half. This is kind of where it started originally, and now it has also come away from the sides of the dish that we baked it in, and we're going to flip this over and turn it out onto some plastic wrap, if we can get it out of the pan. Wrap it up, and it will be good in the refrigerator for up to a year. So I'm going to loosen it a little bit with a butter knife, and it started to come away, and there we go. There's just a little bit in here, so I'm going to save this for myself as our little tasting portion. But I'm touching it, and it's nice and dry, and it's nice and dark. And I know this looks a little burnt around the edge. It's not burnt. It's just very, very well caramelized. And so you want to make sure you wrap it up nicely, and that way it doesn't get dried out in the refrigerator. And something that's really nice about this is it will keep for a very, very long time. I actually have some from last year. So this little piece right here is all I have left from last year's quince cheese, and it is still really good and perfectly safe to eat. Part of the reason for that is the amount of pectin in quince. So if you remember, we soaked some of the seeds in water, and you can see how thick the liquid in this jar has become, and that's just from the pectin that's stored in the seeds and core of the quince fruit, which adds to the preservative nature of this. And so now comes the best part of any recipe, which is the taste test. So let's see if we manage to pull this recipe off for the third year in a row. Yes, we did. It tastes like Christmas. Honestly, it tastes like Christmas. It reminds me of like the inside of a Yankee Candle store
if you could make that smell into a flavor and a non-offensive one. It's warm and sweet and spiced, and you just feel it warming your whole body from the inside out as it goes down your throat. And this is really good with cheese or spread on a piece of bread with some peanut butter. It's one of my absolute favorite foods, and I am so glad that my grandmother picks these for me so that I can make this every year. Go make some quince cheese. Happy foraging.